Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to another episode of Wow, You Made That. This is a podcast about making things handmade. Not against the computer. We use computers as a tool too. But mostly handmade stuff. Entertainment industry mostly, not exclusively. This episode we'll be talking with Victoria Cloyes. I got to know Victoria during my time on Wendell and Wild where we worked together. And she's been doing this for a little while. Let's get into it now with Victoria. So just to get a level, just say your name.
My name is Victoria Cloyes.
Fantastic. I think we've got some good levels here.
Okay.
Okay, so take a break. Hi, I'm here with my friend and colleague, Victoria Cloyes, and we're going to talk to her about what's so great about making things by hand. So, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Michael, for having me on your show. It's wonderful.
I met Victoria on Wendell and Wild, a Netflix project that'll be coming out October of 2022, and we must have crossed paths or just barely missed each other in LA for a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And let's start there. How long have you made things? What would you call yourself, and how long have you been creative?
Okay, I think most recently in my career, I would call myself a set dresser. Prior to that, I'd been kind of a set dresser model maker, and I still do a fair amount of model making, but it's really focused more into set dressing. And the second half of this project, I was lucky enough to move into a lead position, and so that kind of pushed it even more towards sort of logistic planning, almost even a larger production facet than I'd been doing before. So that was a really exciting turn. But predominantly set dressing, model making, and in LA I was doing more of the same for about, I like to say about 9 years. Let's see, I started in 2010 properly, and that was with an internship with Michael Granberry, actually.
Oh, great. Michael Granberry is a fantastic animator in stop motion animation.
Yes, he's a major mentor for me, and at that point I was living in Massachusetts, and he put out a little Craigslist ad for an unpaid internship in Hollywood. It was the only bit of stop motion I could find anywhere on the internet that was hiring. And so I applied, and he hired me from across the country. I packed up my little Camry. I drove across the country, and back when I was a younger person, I just graduated in 09. And I was working at a hotel, and I thought, okay, I've graduated from art school, and I'd really, really love to pursue this stop motion thing. It's not what I pursued in school. I have no portfolio, so I'll just look on Craigslist for literally any opportunity. And all I could find was one single Craigslist post by some guy out in California named Michael Granberry. I knew nothing about him. I applied to his unpaid internship for a film that was called Ticket to Hell, and he said, yeah, come on out to the unpaid job. And so I packed up my Camry and I drove cross country for this job. I met Michael hoping that he wasn't a serial killer. It turned out he wasn't. He was one of the kindest, most massively talented, most inspiring individuals I've ever met. So that was a very lucky gamble, paid off just to meet him. And from there, we made that little project. It didn't go anywhere. He progressed with his career. We kind of went separate ways, and then we crossed again. And then now our careers have been crossing ever since. But that was really the intro for me, was coming cross country for that.
That's great. To back up a little, you are doing set dressing. Well, we're here in the final days of set dressing here on Wendell and Wild. You really got a lot of that on Wendell and Wild. How has that been for you?
Oh man, set dressing on Wendell and Wild has been an incomparably wonderful experience. I feel like working with the set dressers on this team, you included, Michael,
thank you,
has been just the most collaborative, inspiring process, because each of us really had ownership over their own worlds. And it was incredible to see how we would each tackle problems. So there was quite a bit of sharing and suggesting and jumping in to cover each other. And but everyone had a lot to offer and a lot to learn. And there was a real feeling of friendship and respect and trust and awe a lot of the time, and what other people were able to pull off. And for my own part in it, I feel like I have been more challenged here than anywhere in my life professionally, and every day was a battle to create the best possible art in the fastest amount of time, and to live up to this bar that was set really early on by the innumerable talented, creative people that we're surrounded by. So to keep that bar high and to not disappoint people and to make it look good was a huge challenge and really, really fun.
And that bar, I think we haven't said, was set by the director, creator, co-creator of Wendell and Wild, and that would be Henry Selick.
Yes.
And so he's got quite a standard to live up to, and I think I feel like we all nailed it. Let's step back. Why don't you tell the people who don't know what we do as a set dresser?
Set dresser, yes. So we are in this, as I like to see it, really super privileged role of being at the center of a wheel. And if you think of the spokes coming off of that wheel, you have production, you have the people creating the art directors and all the fabricators, the model shop lead. All of those people are funneling objects at you, and then it's your job to coordinate those objects and bring them onto a stage. And then you're now connecting with the spoke of the wheel that is camera and rigging and grip. All of those people, all of those departments are also working with you. So you're in this incredibly dynamic place of diplomacy and speed, where you need to help the art be the best that it can be and help production achieve their goals, which are equally as important. And then also make sure that Henry, our director, has his newest ideas honored as well. So sometimes what happens in pre-production evolves as it gets onto stage. So we're in this moment. It's not just a matter of, I think traditionally people think of set dressing and they think of take the object, put it on the table, look at the illustration, make it look like the picture, and just make the picture a three-dimensional environment. When in fact, we're really real-time reacting. We're reacting, and problem solving constantly, right up into the very last second, all the while considering that most critical spoke in the wheel, which is the animators. And everything we do has to take into heavy consideration where their physical bodies are going to exist in relation to the art, and how they are going to manipulate puppets and not knock their elbow into a bush or have a tree fall on them mid-shot. There's so many things, not to disrupt a chatter on the snow. So we have all these responsibilities. Make sure things are locked down. Make sure things are picture perfect, composed well. Make sure we haven't angered production by taking too long, or angered the art department by making too many on-the-fly adjustments. Keeping everybody happy and getting it done on time. That's what set dressing is all about.
Yeah, I was ill prepared for just how much of the politics there really were. I absolutely love the camera guys here, the assistant cameras on each set, but I wasn't prepared for how much horse trading I would have to do with each of them. They're all artists as well, and they have certain visions that they want to make for Henry, and most of the time it jives with the set dresser, and sometimes it doesn't, and that's always been interesting. But I found that in those difficult times with the ACs, that you always ended up coming to somewhere magical, and it 99.9% of the time it ended up being very fruitful for both parties involved.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's really every part of that puzzle has a creative voice, and they all overlap and
Yes.
intermesh. So what we do affects them. We move an object, and if it's out of their light, now they have to make a lighting adjustment. Does it now need to be suspended? Now we need to get rigging involved. All
Yeah.
these sorts of things, and they all sort of boomerang back and forth. Like this impacts that group, and now that group needs this to happen, and now is that okay with this group? And just a boom, 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 lots of ping-ponging
Yeah.
ideas, and still production is tapping their watch like,
Yes.
you're overdue.
There's always
Let's go.
There's always the producers waiting on you.
Yeah, absolutely. But even they have a creative vision and can empathize when we say it's not ready. I swear we're doing the best we can. We need 2 more hours, 1 more day. And because they ultimately care about the integrity and the highest quality of the film, they make those adjustments on their end. So even they have a creative vision and respect what we're doing.
Yes, that's so true. Let's go way back. So before you came to California,
Yeah.
we get to blame Michael Granberry now for that.
Yay!
I hope one day to interview him.
He's the best to interview.
He is a fantastic gentleman. What were you like as a kid growing up? Were you very creative minded or not so much?
I was an older sister, so I was very bossy. She would attest. My little sister was my best friend. She was also Becca Cloyes is her name. She's also her own creative, and we would go on so many adventures together. So we did a lot of filmmaking together. I got a little VHS camcorder that had a not a long cord, and so the cord was attached to a VHS, and that went into the VCR, and therefore a lot of my filming happened in the living room.
Awesome.
Because of my technological restrictions. But we would do interviews, and we would make commercials. We just loved filming things. On my birthdays, I'd have big sleepovers, and we'd reenact scenes from Greece and things like that. Like, this is where the bossiness comes in. I said, we will be reenacting scenes from Greece for my birthday. And they're like, okay. And there's just lots of singing, dancing. I did a lot of tap, ballet, and jazz, so performing and dancing was a big part of my childhood, which actually I think really has helped me today in that we're navigating through C-stands, and
Yes.
it really is a jungle, so having your balance and your footing saves things so often. It's highly acrobatic set dressing in
Yes.
that you're leaning over things precariously, you're bending under things, you can't disrupt other things, you're walking on fragile things, all sorts of stuff. And so I think dancing played a big part in my life now. And I don't know, I just I loved inventing, and I loved problem solving. I liked making. That's what I went to school for, was product design, so industrial design.
So you said you didn't go to school for art, but
Yeah.
I would shove design into that umbrella.
I think so too. You're absolutely right. And the skills I got I went to RISD. I was extraordinarily blessed to get into RISD by the skin of my teeth.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that.
So that's great. That was my second school. I started at the New England School of Art and Design, and I was doing just sort of, I guess sculpture would be the closest thing, and they wanted me to choose a major, and nothing was really a good fit. And so they said, you should pursue industrial design, and that's when I transferred to RISD. So I did 3 years there. And that education at RISD set me up in a way that I never could have predicted as far as how it relates to stop motion, because I was doing woodworking and metal shop and molding and casting.
A good overview.
Oh, yeah.
Which is what we need here in this stop-mo world.
Yes, just super hands-on mechanical stuff.
Right.
And it all led directly into this job in a way that I think, I don't know, I feel super blessed for that, because immediately I'd show up on jobs and I'd be able to hop on a table saw.
Sure.
And it just gave the people in my in the model shop a lot of a feeling of security that I'd be able to do quite a bit.
Yeah, confidence.
Yeah.
Crew and team building.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know.
So you got that degree.
Yeah.
And then you what did you do before you came to California? There was a gap there or no?
Yeah, so basically I was studying industrial design. It wasn't going super well because my inventions tended towards something Dr. Seuss might create, which it's not highly marketable. I would tend to design things that were basically one-off objects that I would like, which isn't also lending itself to mass production. So basically, I realized I'm more of a craftsperson than a designer,
Right.
who wants to consider ergonomics and also customer interests. I wasn't really interested in customer interests. I just wanted to make what I wanted to make, so quite selfishly.
Right.
So I finished my industrial design degree, and my last semester, I discovered stop motion. I took an animation elective, and I was like, oh, God, this is terrible, because this is what I should have been doing the whole time. And I saw Coraline, another film of Henry Selick's, and I thought, people are doing this job. I have to do this job. This is I just kept saying when I watched Coraline, this is a job. People do this. People do this. And so I graduated with a portfolio that was pretty bad, actually, because it didn't have... It was a lot of unfinished stuff, because I was pursuing a lot of different directions, and it was all kind of odd, and I did well on paper, but as far as my portfolio is really weird.
Don't be too hard on yourself. I think all our first portfolios are pretty awful. So mine was too.
Gosh, I'm like, there's nothing in this. I tried to get a few industrial design jobs. They're like, oh no, you're nowhere near qualified for that. And then, so basically I started working at a hotel. I'm like, well, I've got to pay down all this debt, so I'm going to start working at a hotel. I became a night auditor.
Wow.
And I was doing like some catering and things like that. And I was going to save up all my pennies, pay off my student debt, and then get an artistic job.
Right.
And a couple months into that, maybe half a year into that, I thought, I don't know if this plan is going to be successful. I don't think I'm ever going to pay off this debt. I'm just going to try it.
And you were still on the East Coast then?
Yeah, I was still in Massachusetts.
And so it was at this point of great frustration in your life that you started looking for
I'm
stop motion stuff almost anywhere.
I said I really enjoyed that last semester quite a bit.
Yeah.
I think maybe I could do that. And I told my family I'm going to do stop motion. They're like, sure.
And at that point, you'd have gone anywhere. Would you have gone to England for like an Aardman or something, or anywhere?
That would have been a dream beyond a dream. Aardman is still a dream to work for.
Right.
I would love that very much. And I, I really loved languages, so I had been learning Italian, I've been learning French, and to get to be in Europe and practice those languages would be just total dream, still to this day. But yeah, so that literally across the entire US, I put no restrictions on. I just typed into Craigslist or any job site, stop motion, and that was it. That's all I got.
Let me see if he'll skin it.
Yes.
Hey, brother. Here you go. Can I shut this? Thank you. Okay, yeah, take a drink. And, all right, now, let's jump into, some perceive it as controversial. I don't, because I embrace both worlds. But the whole movement in the last 10, 15, 20 years or so of not just CG, but the rapid prototyping and that world. How do you view it? What's your opinion of all that?
With a lot of love and open-heartedness at this point. There was certainly a point where it's easy to fall into the oh no trap, especially when I look at the incredible CG artists that are replicating stop motion.
It is amazing.
With all their flaw, it just looks so good and it's so impressive. And that was another moment of like, oh no, our jobs are gone.
Right.
But then you think, there's such... The movement of today is just a desire for something new, something artistically, aesthetically new and eye-catching. And CG is so smooth and beautiful. And I think a lot of people want to subvert that. And so they're looking for like the fiber artists, like the artists making things out of wool, or even claymation is so nostalgic to people. And certainly stop motion has that charm that we all know and crave so much, that just magic of moving real objects around. And that has persisted despite the rise of CG. And so at this point I feel very secure that our creative voice is going to still have an outlet. People are going to want it. Maybe not everyone will want it. I don't know if the golden age that we've just lived through is going to continue at its height. I kind of don't think so, because I think things ebb and flow.
I agree.
but I think that's okay.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to peter out. And I think, man, I'm so impressed. My husband, Matt Cross, he works in the 3D modeling, and he is super talented. And it's so amazing to see how his world and our world pair so well. You know, we can take the objects he makes, and then also there are times when hand making it is sometimes even faster, better, just has that quality that we're looking for, but they work together so lovely. And then the CG stuff and the VFX stuff, that's all woven into our world too. And that's what I love about our movie, is that we have artisans from all these different artistic skill sets, but it is all layered, and the layering
Yes.
is so satisfying.
And they're from all over the world, so they bring those experiences with them.
Yes.
What I find interesting, and I hope younger producers coming up are open to real world stuff, because like we were talking about earlier, the give and take with the ACs and the animators on set, when we set up one of these little units with the set on it, there's a lot of happy accidents. And you find an angle, or the AC will find an angle or light it a different way that maybe wasn't in the plans. And I call those happy accidents or serendipity, things you can't plan for when you're doing CG. When you're doing CG, you're always working towards one specific painting, like a painting. And when you're playing with 3, 4, 5, 8, 10 different people on stage trying to, inform and bring pieces to the set, there's all kinds of magic that can happen that I just, like I said, I got nothing against CG, but it doesn't lend that kind of openness to creating an image.
Yes. The dynamic way we mash people into one little creative problem and say, okay, here are 8 minds all trying to solve the same thing at once, and it has this explosive power where everything's under tension, and so you can't really predict how it's going to explode in a good way.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
But it's kind of like fireworks in that way. You get something really exciting and beautiful because the chemistry is always different depending on the people you're adding to the mix.
So you plan on, I imagine, as time permits, learning programs so you can 3D print your own stuff?
Potentially. I'd love to learn Maya, ZBrush, all that stuff. I think it's super fascinating. I'm actually trying to teach myself SketchUp because I'm very interested in architectural modeling and interior design. And on my own path forward, that's something I really want to pursue. And then also I think SketchUp is used occasionally by artistic directors, art directors, and that's another avenue I would love to pursue as well. So for me, environment design, building design, that's sort of the area I'm pushing towards rather than props.
Right. That's where I wanted to go next, is outside activities or other interests that fall broadly under this creative umbrella. I've heard you talk in the past about interior design. Talk about that a little bit. Yeah.
Well, before I took this job, I really wanted to go work for Airbnb and design different vacation properties, basically, because I have a lot of passionate interest towards creating spaces where a person feels creatively inspired to cook or to read or to paint, and how do spaces impact people and put them at ease, make them feel safe, make them feel dreamy, how do they support them and nurture them and cradle them. And so I that's a real passion of mine, which really ties into set dressing because we do the same thing.
True.
We're trying to, except in this case, we're designing 3-dimensional objects that imply a space on a flat screen, basically. But we still are thinking about perspective, we're thinking about window light, and we're thinking about table lamps and how those little moments evoke warmth or cold. Like I was working on one set on this movie that was in a dark underground layer, and how do I project the feeling of drippy pipes on disgusting tiles? How do I make sure everyone watching it feels that, feels chilled by it, stuff like that. So we do that in our jobs, but then hopefully someday I'd love to bring that deliberacy and intention into vacation properties that multiple people and families can share, and sort of bring a little bit of light to their life on their adventures.
That's great. I mean, that's so involved.
That's my sort of future plan.
That's a good goal. That's a
Thanks.
good goal. So how do you feel about, so we were talking that we've been going through this golden era,
Yeah.
and everything is ebb and flow and cycles, and we want to think it's going to keep going.
Save your pennies.
Yeah.
Save your pennies, everyone.
Yeah.
Well, you and I, and you especially, because your history in the industry is
Yep.
longer, understand the
Yes.
world of freelance.
Yes.
And we understand how anomalous and special a freelance job like the one we just lived through is and
Yeah.
was. And I think that helps us maintain a healthy level of gratitude towards what it was and hope for the future, but not expectation.
Yeah.
I think living without expectation of everything future just getting better and better and better, if you just stay present in the moment of, wow, that was great, I wonder what comes next, and not be too disappointed if it's a slow period. For me, I'm heading into a slow period in a way, a professionally slow period to help family members.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be open to what that is. And so I'm doing a personal letting go of professional momentum for the moment and making peace with that.
And being in the moment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm heading into the same place you are. I believe we're going to head into a little bit of a downturn for Stop Mo until they figure out if they like it or not in the production
Or if
offices.
they can afford it.
Or if they can afford it.
Yep.
But I would argue, too, everybody in the past have used that line off and on. But I bet if you looked at the numbers, whether you do it CG or Stop Mo, I don't think we're any more or less. I think we're the same price.
Yeah, I think
And-
I think as long as people
know.
hold that as equivalent
Yeah.
and not as like a, oh no, we can't afford it.
Yeah.
If you need to go lower budget, you just get a little scrappier, and
Exactly.
I like to think that makes for a better movie anyway.
I do too.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, yeah, I've already been down this road once with visual effects is what I came up in, and computers ate that for lunch. And so I just switched to Stop Mo where I could still apply my craft, and I'm glad I did. It's been very rewarding. The Stop Mo hub on the planet right now seems to be where we're talking to you from right now, Portland, Oregon, in that region. There's a lot of companies up here now. I hear a rumor that Aardman's sniffing around. So I hope that's true.
Cool.
Because there's so many of us here, it would make sense for productions to come to Portland. So you're going back to the East Coast for a while.
Yep, back to the East Coast.
But you're looking around for some creative jobs there.
Yeah, I'll be somewhat full time with my folks, but so I'm not sure what the schedule will look like over there, but I would love little part-time things here and there just to sort of stay alive.
Yeah.
In that way.
Right.
But I'm trying to be open to whatever this new chapter has in store and not force old expectations onto it or even old hopes. Just try to be with my parents and my partner and in the place I grew up and see what that experience has in store for me.
Yeah.
Be more passive in that open.
More open. Yeah.
I tend to be like a locomotive with a goal and a plan.
Right.
And I just put on my blinders and I start shoveling coal and down the
Right.
track we go.
Right.
You know?
So for anybody that's maybe younger,
Yeah.
hearing this, and all they maybe know is the computer, what would you do to encourage them to get up and do something with their hands?
My absolute favorite thing to build with is cardboard. I love rummaging through my recycling when I'm in a project mode and digging something out, because you can slice it, and the artists who are doing things on cardboard, if you're involved in Instagram, is unparalleled.
It's
You can
really
get
amazing.
insane detail from cardboard, but you can also, it's just as approachable to use it if you're brand new and have never picked anything up. So if you can go to Michael's and get a little hot melt glue gun and some hot melt glue sticks, and you rummage in your recycling bin, my recommendation is always just to scroll online or wherever and find a picture. Find a picture of something that you like, that you'd like to try to replicate. maybe it's a chair, maybe it's a table, maybe it's a little outdoor scene diorama. And then just look at that picture and try to imagine what real life object might best suit that. So if you're looking at a beautiful lake with a mountain, what could the mountain be? The mountain could be kind of crumpled fabric over a triangle cardboard cutout. And now you have a sort of a mountain, and it's got ridgy sorts of things. If it's brown fabric or whatever, you are looking at trees and you're thinking, my Brillo pad. If I just ripped up my Brillo pad and added some sticks from outdoors, I can make some really cute little trees for the hillside. Or maybe it's just blue paper for the lake, and how can I make it glossy? Well, I could take some saran wrap and just sort of mash that up and put it on, and now I've got like a glossy, ripply water lake. And once you start challenging your brain to translate pictures into real life objects, that's when, if it's for you, you'll get the bug right there and you'll say, oh, I am so obsessed with this, I don't see how I can pursue much else. And that, to me, that was really important, was translating images and trying my hand. And once I got past translating images and attempting that, then I went on to finding, actually, one of my strategies when I was younger was going through Kickstarter and finding any stop motion project at all and looking at their concept art. And then I would ask myself, can you not just replicate the lake by the hill, can you replicate that style of art?
Right.
And that's when you start to go into a professional realm, because the professionals can not just make a tree, but they can make the kind of tree they see in the art director's vision.
Right.
And that's when you start to move into being a professional.
And at times it's harder than it looks.
Oh, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Because now you're thinking about scale and you're thinking about texture. But the easiest place to start is with a picture you like and you're recycling.
And don't be too hard on yourself with your early attempts.
Oh, man, no. Just relish the joy of it. The joy of making miniatures. There's something so sweet. Every little thing. For the prop makers in my life, every little model they make, they kind of fall in love with, and it starts by, oh, I know exactly how I'm going to do this, and then it segues into, God, this is the ugliest thing I've ever touched,
Right.
And then it segues into, I think it's time to throw this into the trash, and then your friend comes over, it's like, well, no, what if you thin down that table leg, or what if you add a little paper? You're like, ooh, that's a great idea. And then you circle around the bend and you're like, I love this object. And then you get to paint and you're like, this is the cutest little table that's ever existed. And then, it's love all over again. But going through the darkness is part of that process every single time, almost for me at least. There's that period of joy, skipping into the woods, darkness of the woods, agony of defeat, solution, light through the tunnel. Hooray!
It's true. It can be emotional.
Yeah.
And also you've been dancing around it, but you're saying too is you don't have to have $1 million. You can use whatever you got around the house or apartment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It just helps to have a picture.
Right.
All the professionals use reference pictures. It's just kind of like drawing. I think drawing is really intimidating, at least to me. When I think, oh, how am I going to draw a person? It's like, well, look at a person and then draw that.
Right.
You have a lot better look. It's the same thing with making miniatures. Find a thing you want to replicate and then look at it and think about what you're seeing. And the more you can pull specifically from what you're seeing, the better. So if it's a tree, it's not just like green on top, trunk on the bottom. It's, ooh, what kind of branches are they? How can I replicate leaves versus pine needles?
What are the shapes?
Yeah. What is the overall silhouette? What are the specifics? What sort of textures could I combine? So maybe some parts of the tree are simplistic and other parts are detail. Maybe I have just a few very carefully placed twigs that are like extra branches, but the rest is just sort of foliage. You can really get specific about how you translate a picture. You could take the same picture and make it 20 different ways.
Absolutely.
Easily.
Yeah.
And it would probably be rewarding every time.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're still at Window and Wild, and we're at the point now where we're finishing up our lunch hour and should probably get back to striking this place. We need to be out of here in the next few weeks. And I want to thank my one of my newest friends, Victoria, for doing this with me today. Thank you.
Michael, thank you so much. It's been such a joy to talk to you today and to work with you on this project.
Thank you. All right, I want to thank Victoria for talking with me. And get out there and support the crafts and the handmade items. Go out there and buy something from an artist. Make their day. You can find links to some of the things that Victoria and I talked about on my website, michaelpossert.com. Michael Possert, Possert.com. And that ends another episode of Wow, You Made That. Okay, see you again, everybody.